Hey everyone! Today we're diving into the beautiful and honestly really powerful world of data visualization. We're going to see how simple numbers and charts can come alive to tell some of history's most fascinating and important stories.
So let's start with a little riddle. What could possibly connect Napoleon's disastrous march on Moscow, all the dialogue in your favorite blockbuster movies, and a deadly cholera outbreak in 19th century London? I mean, they sound completely unrelated, right?
Well, the answer is they all tell these incredibly powerful stories, not just with words, but through the kind of elegant and insightful language of data visualization.
So, what exactly is data visualization anyway? How do we take what could be millions of rows of cold, hard numbers and transform them into a story, a narrative that actually makes sense to us?
Okay, so at its core, it's pretty simple. Data visualization is just the graphical representation of information. It's using things you're already familiar with, charts, graphs, maps, to give us a way to see and understand trends, outliers, and patterns that would be totally lost if you were just staring at a massive spreadsheet.
And why is it so ridiculously effective? Well, it's because our brains are basically hardwired for it. Our eyes are naturally drawn to colors and patterns. We can spot the red dot in a sea of blue dots or a spike in a line chart almost instantly. It lets us see the big picture, the trends, the weird outliers, way faster than just reading text. It's storytelling that gets straight to the point.
And this isn't just for professional statisticians anymore. We're seeing this amazing rise of the citizen data scientist. That's just people in any profession, marketing, sales, you name it, who can now use these tools to find insights. Honestly, in today's world, being able to use visuals to tell stories with data is an absolutely crucial skill for pretty much everyone.
Okay, so we've got the what and the why. Now let's get into the fun part, the how. What are the rules for creating really great visualizations, or vizzes as they're often called?
Well, you could write a whole book on this, but we can really boil it down to 4 key pillars. First, simplify your view. Just keep it simple. Avoid all that distracting clutter, because less really is more. Second, tell a clear story. Use things like size and color to guide the viewer's eye where you want it to go. Third, use your data carefully. Be intentional and make sure you're accurately representing the information. And finally, number 4, test and improve. A great viz is rarely perfect on the first try. It's all about iterating.
I really like this quote from Iro Botorin at Canadian Tire Corporation. He basically says it's all about understanding the needs of your audience. See, it's not just about making a pretty picture. It's about communicating something that's actually useful and helps someone make a decision. And you know what's wild? These principles, they're not new at all. In fact, some of the most powerful data stories ever told come from way back in history, long before we had any computers. So let's look at a few of those big wow moments. Okay, let's go back to that first example I mentioned. In 1812, Napoleon marches on Moscow with this huge army. We're talking 470,000 soldiers. But the campaign was an absolute, unmitigated disaster. He returned with just 10,000 survivors. So how on earth do you tell a story that grim and complex? Well, Charles Joseph Menard did it with this single brilliant map. It's become one of the most famous visualizations of all time. The thick tan band shows the army advancing, and you can literally see it shrinking as it goes. Then the thin black line shows the harrowing retreat. And down below it, this simple line graph shows the brutal plunging temperatures that sealed their fate. It's just a staggering, heartbreaking story told in one single image.
All right, now for another life or death scenario. Fast forward to 1854. A deadly cholera outbreak is ripping through London. People are dying, panic is setting in, and nobody knows why.
So this physician, a guy named John Snow, did something that was totally revolutionary for the time. He mapped the data. He went street by street and marked each death with a little bar on a map. And suddenly, a terrifyingly clear pattern emerged. The deaths were all clustered around a single water pump on Broad Street. This simple map revealed the contaminated source. They removed the pump handle, and boom, countless lives were saved. That right there is the power of seeing the data. Around the very same time, during the Crimean War, another deadly pattern was taking hold. There was this shocking truth hiding in the numbers. More soldiers were dying from preventable diseases in filthy, poorly run hospitals than were actually being killed on the battlefield. Think about that.
And this is where the nurse and, let's be honest, data rock star Florence Nightingale comes in. She used this innovative chart, it's called a polar area diagram, to make the truth absolutely undeniable.
The huge blue wedges show deaths from disease, and they just completely dwarf the little red slivers, which are deaths from combat. Her visualization was so compelling, so clear, it forced the government to reform hospital sanitation and changed medicine forever.
Those historical examples are just incredible, right? But what about today? Let's jump forward to what I like to call the wow of now, where technology has turned these static charts into dynamic interactive canvases we can all play with. I mean, today, data storytellers are exploring literally everything. For instance, a group called The Pudding analyzed 2,000 film scripts to show the really stark gender disparity in movie dialogue. Another project studied 120,000 selfies to find global trends in how we all pose for photos. We've got people mapping every solar eclipse for the next 60 years, and even making the entire US government budget interactive so you can actually understand it. The possibilities are just endless.
So what's really changed? Well, the tools, for sure. We've moved from static ink on paper to interactive screens. And the topics have definitely expanded from war and disease to, pop culture and selfies. Plus, it's not just for a few experts anymore. But what's really fascinating is what hasn't changed. The core goal is still exactly the same, to reveal hidden truths and find patterns in the world all around us.
So, with all that in mind, how can you take these ideas and start putting your own data to work? It's your turn.
Okay, let's boil it all down. Here are the key takeaways. First, data visualization is all about turning overwhelming data into clear, simple stories. Second, the very best visualizations are simple, they're narrative-driven, and they guide the viewer's eye. And third, whether you're Florence Nightingale in the 1850s or a data analyst today, these core principles are absolutely timeless and incredibly powerful.
Which really just brings us to our final thought. With all the tools and all this knowledge now more accessible than ever before, there's really only one question left to ask. What story is your data waiting to tell?